Hello, and welcome back to another video. I didn't say walkabout, so it's going to be another talking one. And I want to talk about sort of a continuation onto what I started when I talked about why I take photographs and why I think you should too. And so I want to just talk about documentary photography / street photography and the focal length choices that are appropriate in my opinion, and also just to talk about why I think you should try wide lenses as a whole. So I'm just gonna say beforehand that I don't really want to get into gear too much. I don't really like to talk about gear that much on this channel. I just label my camera and film stock on walkabouts because I know that there's a lot of people getting into film and sometimes they wonder like what certain film looks like or what certain cameras work like. So that's the only reason I do that part. But to me, it doesn't really matter what camera you're using as long as it's the one that you are comfortable using. So if it works for you and that's the one that you like, then that's good enough. But I'm gonna talk about a range instead of a very specific like this is the lens that you should go for. I'm gonna say that the range is somewhere in the 24 to 50 millimeter range, and I'm gonna say that this is all equivalent in the full frame world. So if you're using APS-C, you want to multiply your focal length by 1.5. If you're using micro four thirds, you want to multiply by 2. With medium formats, you actually go down, but with full frame, the number you see is the number you get. So 24 to 50 in full frame terms, somewhere like 12 to 25 in micro four thirds, or something like 16 to 35-ish on APS-C. So why am I talking about this? Well, when I started photography, I bought myself a camera, and one thing that I heard a lot was to get a 50 millimeter or 50 millimeter equivalent, and that just seems to be the statement of that's given to everyone when they start. And I think it's sort of perpetuated by the fact that if you buy an older film camera, especially SLRs, you're going to get a lens that's usually a 50 millimeter that's bundled with it. And don't get me wrong, 50 millimeter is great. I'm not going to knock that focal length. It's just that it starts to get into that range where you are getting that separation, that like compression, even that is a little bit unrealistic. It's not necessarily bad, it's just that you're narrowing your angle of view quite a bit. So I want to advocate a little bit for the things on the wider end of 50. So like I've said before, I love 35 millimeter, but this could be 28, this could be 24, this could be 40, could be anything in that range. Recently, a lot of camera manufacturers have been making 40 millimeter lenses. There's a new Leica Q with a 43. There's a Ricoh GR3X with a 40 millimeter lens. Nikon for their Z system has a 40 millimeter. Pentax for a long time has had a 40 something, I think 42 or 43. I think part of that is to do with full frame. On the diagonal, I think it's around 40 to 43 millimeters. So I think that's like the perfect normal for that format. For APS-C, I think it's somewhere around 27, and Fujifilm has a 27 millimeter lens that fits that bill. So it's nice. I think that sort of, it's a sort of in between 35 and 50. So that could work for you if you like to be on the longer end. But why should you be shooting wide? So I think that a lot of documentary and street photography has been historically shot wide because of two things. One, I think, is that the context is very important to a documentary photo. So when you shoot wider lenses and wider lengths, you get more of the scene, the environment. I think that's really, it just lends to the authenticity of the photo. It just makes it seem more real, like you could have seen this, and you get more information about the overall scene, which is great. And the second thing that I will say is that I think that when you shoot wider lenses, you have to show the world sort of the way it is. You don't get to curate nearly as much. You don't get to create camera effects like separation. You don't get nearly as much bokeh. You don't get that compression from further away in the camera as much. So you would just have to show what you see. You get a little bit of leeway, of course. You pick your angle and things like that, but at the end of the day, it's more true to life, more true to what you saw. But of course, there's a time and place for everything, so I'm not gonna say outright that you have to be shooting wide lenses for documentary or street, because there's a lot of great photographers who've used longer lenses like 90 millimeters for street photography, and that works. Everything can work for the medium. There's no one rule, one size fits all sort of answer. But I just want to talk about why I like wide lenses and why I think that you should give them a shot, especially if you're someone who's buying maybe their second or third lens, because it's just something that gets overlooked. Because I feel like when people buy their first cameras, or when you get lost in that bokeh world, which is very easy to get caught up into, you just want to buy lenses that are faster and, you know, in that 50, 85. They're very nice for portraits and details and getting that pop from the background because you have that separation. But when you shoot these wider lenses and you're dealing with deeper depths of field, I think you have to work a little bit harder to get a really interesting photo. But I think that you get something that speaks more authentically about the world. You know, it's very easy to buy like a 51.4 and shoot everything at 1.4, and you're going to get a lot of pictures that look good to you because you might be used to just your phone, and you don't get that like true quality out of focus blur. But I think that deep focus on wide lenses can lead to more compelling narratives than you might get out of a blurred background. But that's not to say that blurred backgrounds are bad. I think that sort of the appeal of medium format and large format is that you can shoot wide lenses and get that context but still get that blur that you can't get with smaller formats. So I think that, you know, the ideal is to be able to shoot wide and still get that blur, and you can do that when you buy really expensive 1.4, 23 millimeter, 24 like 28 millimeter lenses. It's just that maybe that's not accessible to everyone. So I want to talk about just buying yourself, you know, whatever 28, 35 you can get your hands on, because the vast majority of the time you're not trying to get blur out of that. You're just going to try and shoot it at f4, f8. And, you know, I think that that's still going to be really good. I think it's going to be more challenging to get really compelling pictures, but I think that it's more worthwhile. I think it's more fulfilling. There's a reason why most smartphone lenses are in that 24 to 28 range, because I think it's just really easy to pick up a wide lens and just take a picture, because it's sort of just a good quality representation of what you're seeing, and that feels really nice. But I think that it's very easy to get into that snapshot idea with that kit lens or your phone lens, but when you stick yourself with a wide prime and you're being more deliberate, when you get to a point when you're thinking about the shots that you're going to take, I think you'll find that it's both more challenging to get a good photo because you have so much in the frame that you have to keep track of, or, you know, you're being very deliberate about what you want to show, even though you have to show so much that you will end up with a photo that makes you feel better because you really like found something that you could see and it represents it in the right way for you. I don't know if that made any sense, but that's just sort of what I'm trying to get at. It's not really necessarily this is the way, but more this is what I like and I want you to just give it a chance. So yeah, that's really all I wanted to say. Thank you for watching that video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. Even if it's you agree with me or you disagree with me, it's fine. I'm happy to talk about it. I want to hear different points of view. If you want to leave a comment or send me a message, I'm happy to chat about it at all times. But yeah, overall, you know, it's just I wanted to sort of put it out there that you should consider buying a wide angle lens, because I think that they're just nice, and I think that they get overshadowed a little bit by their telephoto cousins. Definitely not necessarily in the street photography realm, but I think just in the general photography as a whole. Like event photographers will buy that 24 to 70. Street photographers will buy 35mm primes. But I think when you are just starting out and you don't know what you're looking for, it's very easy to get yourself a 50 and think this is the lens or this is it. But that's one style of photography, and if you want to entrench yourself a little bit deeper into this documentary or street, I think that you should consider going a little bit wider. Maybe not too wide, because when you get into, the further wide you go, the more distortion there is in the photo. But I think in that 28 to 50 specifically is more okay, and then 24 is getting to the end of what I think is like almost too wide, but you can make it work. But yeah, that's it for me, and I will see you in the next one. Blueberry would like to be in the video. Do you have anything to say, Blueberry? It appears that she does not.